So today is the 13th year anniversary of Good Kid, Mad City, right? Um, this is the first major label album release of Kendrick Lamar, a follow-up to the independently released um, Section 80, and of course, the Kendrick Lamar EP and Training Day mixtapes, all the mixtapes. So this was a big deal when it come out, right? And I was not around. I was in a jail cell. That's where I was at. So I was not able to hear this as it was happening. I have my own unique perspective. And I thought today for the channel, I would go ahead and tell that story, how I got into Kendrick, hearing uh, a song from this album for the first time, and also giving you my opinion on the album, its importance um, and influence in the hip hop community since its release 13 years ago. Now, as I said, I was in jail. And I was like 2.5 hours away from home, maybe two and a half hours away from home. And I didn't know anybody there. So, I mean, like I met a couple people that I dealt with, but a lot of people I did my own thing. I wrote, I was writing songs back then, still, way even further back than that. But I was writing songs, and I was also writing short stories, and reading a lot of philosophy at the time. So I stayed in my own little bubble a lot of the time. I didn't really watch the music videos because every day they play 106 at 6 o'clock. But I didn't watch 106 because I felt like, the music on 106, it just went down. I didn't really like Roxy and Terrence replacing AJ and Free. And this is like right before it ended, like 106 ended. Um, in fact, it might not even, was it 106? I'm pretty sure it was 106. But anyway, I was not a fan of videos at this point, right? Or a lot of new hip hop at the time period, or at least that I knew, because I had not been tapped into the underground yet, not like that. So I'm in the jail. I'm in my cell, right? And I'm in a dormitory situation, and there's like a top tier and a bottom tier. Top tier is out. I'm on top tier, and they got the TV on in the day room. Being me, I'm like, fuck that. I'm going to right. And I listen. Sometimes I'd hear something that catch my ear, and I go check it out. And I watched other TV shows, Criminal Minds, all this shit that we watch in jail. But I didn't want to watch videos. So that particular day, I'm in my cell, and I'm hearing like this new release, this song coming out. And they're like, yeah, such and such, Kendrick Lamar. And I'm like, I do remember thinking something like, he goes by his real name. Like, I thought that was weird. Um, and I thought he would be like a nerd or like something weird. I don't know what I thought, but it didn't sound like something to catch you. So, which is the point, being himself, which I found out later on as I tapped into his discography. That's why he made the shift from K Dot to Kendrick, right? So, but I didn't know any of this at the time. So I'm like, all right, I'm hearing the song and it plays and it's like, pull up, drink, pull up, drink. And I'm like, okay, I'm hearing it and I'm like, this isn't, whatever. But then I start listening to the lyrics because I can't help it. The TV's on really loud. And if you've ever been to jail, it's loud in general, like all the time, except maybe when people are asleep. And even at night, depending on where you're at and the rules and the way shit's carried, it could still be really loud at night. but not necessarily. But anyway, so we're like a group of people around the TV watching this shit, actually. My ear perks up because I hear them say something about diving in a swimming pool full of liquor, which, me being a writer, I immediately recognized as a very unique lyric because it's super like metaphorical and abstract imagery, right? So I'm like, I never really heard anybody say no shit like that in a song. And I'm realizing that this doesn't sound like anything else that I've been hearing recently. I think when I was out on the street, um, I think like OJ the Juice Man was real big, and like it was like shit like that, right? That I was hearing. Chief Keef, I think, was coming out around that time. And so this was just so different than what I was hearing like in the neighborhoods, right? Just as somebody that was listening as somebody that been writing rhymes for like, I don't know, about 6, 7 years at that point. Um, I was like, damn. So I'm listening, and then I realized that he's not only got this crazy imagery, but his flow is crazy. And then he switches in the second verse and he starts talking to himself with the real crazy voice. And I'm like, what the fuck am I hearing? Because I had never heard, I don't know that I'd ever heard anything like that. And if I had, it had been like some random obscure thing, maybe in the underground, which I was relatively unfamiliar with still. But I hadn't heard anything like that on the radio for sure, like ever. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And there's a video and it's very like creative. And so I knew that this was special, that he was special, or believed that he was special just by hearing that alone. And then, uh, I get out and then they're praising the shit out of Good Kid, Mad City. Like all the reviews, The Source, Vibe, Double XL, all the magazines that I was reading in the jail, because that's what you do. You read old magazines. But so anyway, but I didn't get a chance to listen to it for whatever reason. I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the time, because I didn't have any sort of like subscription for music. So I think at the time, if I'm not mistaken, like YouTube had just incorporated Vivo, and like I think that you couldn't just go on YouTube without going, like, everybody had Vivo and they were censoring everybody's shit, and it was like not the way it is now. And so I didn't listen to it for that reason or some other reason that I'm mixing up. But I didn't listen to it until, I don't even know when I listened to it in its entirety. I guess it would have probably been 2014 or 15 before I listened to it in its entirety. But I heard a couple songs, but I knew I was hearing Kendrick was special, and I knew that Kendrick was special, but because of my lifestyle at the time, I was in and out of jail, and I was doing uh, a lot of other things that I wasn't supposed to be doing that were major disturbances in my ability to maintain stability. So anyway, I'm finally listening to Kendrick, and I get a hold of Good Kid, Mad City, and I'm listening to like Art of Peer Pressure. And I'm like, this is some of the best storytelling I've ever heard. And the production that goes along with it is crazy. And then I'm listening to, Swimming Pools, which is a single about jumping in a pool full of liquor, a single about jumping in a pool full of liquor. Um, and also about being an alcoholic and telling yourself not to be drunk, basically, while struggling with drinking. It's really an alcoholic anthem, but just disguised as a commercial hip hop song. But and then you get to shit like Backseat Freestyle, which is not my favorite Kendrick song. But I mean, the production is crazy. I think it's Hit Boy on there, if I'm not mistaken. But the production on that's crazy, and he's going the fuck off on that song. Mad City, my favorite song on the album, probably. Just crazy lyrical display, cadence, flow switches, voices. The feature with MC8 is fire. Um, I mean, it just blew me away how great of an album it really was, and it honestly restored faith in me, and that's what got me back into like more modern hip hop. Because at the time, I was still listening to like now at the time, at the time, I think the last new album that I listened to around that time was like Nas's Life is Good, because I listen to every Nas project as soon as it comes out, or in that case, you know, when I could, as soon as I could. But I think Daughters was the lead single, and I had heard Daughters, so like I was into I mean, I was on Nas. That's what I listened to, and if Jay would have, I mean, Jay dropped Watch the Throne around that time too, and I was not a fan. I did try to listen to Watch the Throne some kind of way, but I was not a fan. But yeah, man, Kendrick just blew me away with how great the album is. The skits, you know, the linear storytelling throughout the album. Um, it's just such a fucking great piece of art. And he deserves every bit of credit that he gets, flowers for the album. I think the album should be celebrated. Um, you know, everybody's like comparing Drake and Kendrick because of the battle, and I was having this thought this morning listening to Good Kid, Mad City. I was listening to it this morning because of all this, and I'm like, yeah, let me go back, because I mean, I listened to like 2 or 3 songs about a month ago, but I haven't listened to the whole album in about a year or two. So I go back and listen this morning, and I'm like, first of all, Drake doesn't have this kind of range, but also, yes, Drake has a couple classic albums. So if you want to say classic albums versus classic albums, maybe Kendrick slightly edges him out, but yeah, Drake's got them. Like, I'm not saying that Drake has no classic albums and all of Kendrick's are just straight classics, and it's that lopsided as far as that goes. But what I can say is that none of Drake's classic albums are considered top 5 or top 10 albums of all fucking time, like Good Kid, Mad City is. Good Kid, Mad City is called the modern day Illmatic by some. Good Kid, Mad City is not an album. It is a piece of art. So stop fucking playing with Good Kid, Mad City. Stop. Stop that. Happy anniversary to Good Kid, Mad City. He just elevated himself so much artistically with this album. And really, I think, solidified himself immediately as a force to be reckoned with.